this recruitment tool is biased against women, and they were sitting and questioning why it is so biased against women, why it's not choosing women for top tech positions. It's because the company itself was not actually choosing those women for those top tech positions, and data that was collected from this indeed was used to fit into the models, and the model became actually biased. And it's like a small kid that you are training all the time with the data, with the real data, with historical data, and it's obviously doing the same kind of decisions as we do in real world. So, yeah.
I'm meeting a lot of people talking about AI, working with AI, consulting AI. I haven't met yet anyone doing PhD on AI. So can you share a little bit about what drawn you to this topic so early? Welcome to 31C Data Talk. Today, my guest is Gunay Kazimzade. Gunay, pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you very much, Yaron, for your invitation. It's my pleasure also being here, and I'm looking forward to it.
My pleasure. So, Gunay, if whoever doesn't know you yet, may you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Gunay. I'm based in Berlin, in Germany, and I'm working for Siemens Energy. I'm a governance advisor, and also in parallel, I do a lot of things actually. It's all about tackling AI governance topics, AI strategy topics, AI transformation topics, mostly for executives and decision makers in this fast-paced environment. I also do a lot of research. My doctoral research was also responsible AI and AI governance. I'm originally from Azerbaijan, and I'm based here in Germany, in Berlin.
Beautiful. So you're probably super busy with AI now. When a company start hiring you for advisory, what do you focus on first? Where do you begin?
Yeah. So before Siemens Energy, I was at Mercedes-Benz, and back then, in 2022 or something, of course, still this ChatGPT topics and large language models and all these topics were still emerging. And for such big organizations and enterprises, most critical question was more like, what are the quick wins for us, and what should we do also in the long term in order to on this fast-paced environment when every day there are new releases, every day there are new models coming up, how to keep track of it, how we should also allocate our resources for that. So for Mercedes-Benz, I would say it was a very timely topic. And today for Siemens Energy, I am also responsible for AI governance topics and how our decision makers should navigate on this fast-paced environment where we want, of course, innovation to happen. We want our employees across more than 90 countries and 100K employees worldwide to innovate and to use AI and its capabilities, but also at the same time, how we want to be safe, compliant, and legally grounded. This is also one of the key questions that I'm tackling in my current work, and I would say it's indeed a very challenging task, of course, as a enabler, also changing a bit the culture of governance being perceived as a bottleneck or as a bureaucracy.
Yeah. So how do you make sure the AI governance is not blocking the innovation, rather having it flow in a more ethical way?
Yeah. I would say this approach has different layers, let's say. First of all, it's all, of course, a cultural topic. Yeah. So when things are moving so fast, it's very easy to break things for sure. The same with AI. And the second challenge is that we are operating in more than 90 countries, and each country has their own legislation around AI and their own way of dealing with it. And more from the strategic, of course, the first thing that we tackled, we tried to understand how we want to be legally grounded and yet enable those innovations in specific geographical locations, for example, in USA, in China, in Germany. So I would say our main approach right now with AI governance being an enabler of a business and innovation is first of all awareness raising and executive enablement. And by executive enablement, I mean the people who are making decisions in such a large scale, they really understand what are the pros and cons and what are the things that really keeping us safe in terms of data leakage, in terms of biases, discrimination, responsible AI, but also at the same time, they are really well trained and they are well enabled to understand what might go wrong and what might go right if we don't do things with AI and if we actually do things with AI. So they are very good right now, educated and enabled in the topic of strategic understanding around AI, I would say, and then transferring it to the culture of the whole organization, where bringing a huge impact to the work that they are doing and to the company strategies that we are trying to execute. Of course, it's a lot of strategical enablement. It's also cultural awareness and also creating safe environments for employees to actually be able to innovate in the works that they're doing.
So obviously, most of the companies now are using AI, but what point do they need to get into that they say, okay, we need AI governance. We need someone to consult us and guide us on this one.
And there are different impulses, that are coming to the big enterprises. First of all, it's of course the legal legislation. For example, for Europe, it's EU AI Act and all the discussions around it. And for different other let's say countries, it's a different kind of legislation, and they have different approaches for sure. But it's a very good question, like why we need AI governance. If you would ask my own personal opinion as an expert, let's say, who is already working in AI for around decade before the AI boom, let's say, I would say it's even not something that you consider that you have to do. It is something necessary for you to run your business. Because right now, if we talk about agentification, agentic organizations, and agentic AI and AI for productivity, I also want to maybe challenge the way that we are defining their governance, because the word governance itself is something that really perceived as like a very bureaucratic rules, policies, and everything.
Yes.
But today it's changing. AI is changing the term of governance as well. It's also innovating governance and its own governance, let's say, because I would say AI governance even replacing what we used to call AI strategy. Big companies, let's say with more than 100K employees, they have very heavy AI operating models that they want to execute. Basically, how we transform the whole organization with AI, and also the enablement topic. Like how we enable the different employee groups and decision makers, and also even the customers that we're serving, in order to have the most benefit from the AI solutions. So I would say governance right now, it's taking the whole scope of AI strategy, enablement, and transformation, actually. So it's essential.
I'm sure. So you said in one of your talk, AI is bias, right? Because it's basically reflecting and mirroring us and our complexity. So how basically we should use AI considering the fact that it's biased?
So I started this investigations in 2018. Again, the world without ChatGPT and very large language models as we use today. And I started with a very concrete question: where bias is coming from. Let's say if the facial recognition system cannot detect the face of a person of color, let's say, or if let's say the system, the social security system, where AI is used to put people into different security groups and how they should be treated based on those groups, why it's treating, let's say, different groups in a different way. Or in predictive policing systems, for example, in US, why it is biased against people of color or people of underrepresented communities. So this the big question I started with. And obviously, like the fundamentally machine learning models and AI models, they are trained on human data. It's trained on the historical data. And I'm giving this example of Amazon recruitment tool that was also very popular in 2018 and a big media news, that this recruitment tool is biased against women. And they were sitting and questioning why it is so biased against women, why it's not choosing women for top tech positions. And obvious, because the company itself was not actually think those women for those top tech positions. Data that was collected from this indeed was used to fit into the models, and the model became actually biased. And it's like a small kid that you are training all the time with the data, with the real data, with historical data. And it's obviously doing the same kind of decisions as we do in real world. So yeah, if you go to a human recruiter who is biased against women. So long story short, again, without going into the very academic details of my PhD and my research, of course, right now the topic of bias is becoming even more and more challenging with agentic AI. Before, the pipeline was very straightforward. Yeah, you take data, you label data, then you use to train your model and fine tune your model, let's say with your data sets, and then you design your model and this deep neural networks and everything, and then there are some kind of based on your application, maybe pattern recognition or recommender system or something. But today, with agentic AI, the whole story is changing. And this biased decision making and biased labels, it's even moving to the point of action where there is no longer a human in the loop to check if it's biased or if it's not, or to do the second check or third check, or to change your weights again, against some technical biases and against some errors. So this speed of innovation, as we mentioned, it's even making these biases to amplify in the larger scale in, let's say, big organizations or in systems that are affecting, for example, public service systems. And that is very scary, honestly speaking, at least for the person who was deeply researching this topic of biased data labeling. I think that's a very disturbing topic, and more people are looking into that direction, including myself. Of course, we cannot fix society. I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah, like fix against biases. We cannot say that tomorrow we will wake up and everything will be utopian, perfect in the world where women are treated the same the way that are men treated, let's say, or it's like 50-50 in the gender, let's say, neutrality and everything. Of course, we cannot claim that. But what we can do with AI and with how we are making the decisions with AI is where we can actually question this topic of biases, yeah, based on the use case, based on where we are deploying those models, and even bigger questions of human rights and bigger questions of discrimination. This is something that big organizations are also right now tackling, and that's coming back to the question of why AI governance is important and why companies should look at it. Because if before the scale of bias or error was small, today it's much bigger. It's affecting millions and millions. So that's why all organizations and corporates are thinking about it even on a strategic level. Yeah, that's why AI governance right now is much more important.
Yeah. So do you think that the regulation like the UAE AI Act is slowing down the innovation, or it's really important that we have it?
Honestly, I was part of Council of Europe's ad hoc committee on artificial intelligence when the first legal discussions were happening. Yeah, it was 2020. We were sitting together with all the legal experts and, of course, technical experts trying to define what is high risk system, what is medium risk. And back then, the intention was not blocking, of course, innovation. Yeah, the intention was really help organizations and deployers and providers to enable this safe innovation with AI. Even though ChatGPT was not there, large language models were not so many popular, and even though the people who were writing those laws has, I would say, a bit limited understanding around how those technologies are working. Yeah, even with these limitations and with the limitations of the technology being so fast and evolving so fast, I think we did a very good job for 2020 and 22 when the first draft of EU AI Act was there with all the this geopolitical topics around AI actually emerged also. So that's where I would say the cows started, and this digital omnibus, also the project, and how in EU this discussion started to evolve, and how the US AI geopolitics discussions and China geopolitics discussions actually affected how it's happening in European Union.
Gunay, it was a pleasure having you on the show. I appreciate it. And I look forward to meeting you in Berlin. Thank you. Ciao.